How's it going, folks? Welcome back to Idiots versus Idiots. I am the big man, obviously, and with me, as always, is my greatest friend, Danny, from apparently his library. And
Correct.
I also wanted to say, before we get into our stuff today, two huge announcements. Number one, as you can see down below, and as you can see Danny holding there in his wonderful Vanna White impression, right? Yeah. That is, can you do the little, you should have worn a glittery dress today. Should have worn a glittery dress. Anyway, but is
a glittery moo-moo.
That's right, a glittery moo-moo. That would work. Is a wonderful new sponsor. We are now sponsored by Liquid Death.
Liquid Death, murder your thirst.
Yes, murder your thirst with Liquid Death. We have a unique, obviously, discount. It's across the bottom. Use Idiots10, that's Idiots10 for 10% off. You are very welcome for that. And
I'm going to give everyone in our audience a quick tip.
Yes.
I will link in the description to Liquid Death's ad, and it's
glorious. Danny had to explain to me what this was. Danny had to explain to me. Eat it. Danny had to explain to me what this was. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so listen, I am a sucker for good branding and good marketing and good design. And the number one fight we have at Idiots versus Idiots headquarters is branding and design. Because we love doing the stories. We love everything else. This can of delicious, mountain fresh canned water is amazing. And on top of that, let me explain something. You know it is good for you to consume lots and lots of water.
Yes.
Okay, we actually talked about this in our first episode of Idiots versus Idiots on a story we can't even refer to. It was political and will get demonetized. However, it is good for you to and listen. I don't know what it is about BMX or the skater branding advertising, like the in your face Liquid Death. I'm 30 something years old. The fact that my mom's like, why do you have that? What does it say? Liquid Death? Why isn't it live? That's why it makes me drink more water. This is a 16-ounce can of water. I will polish these off today while we are doing the podcast.
Yes.
So I want you to go right now to liquiddeath.com because we are so proud of this sponsor. We are so proud as Idiots versus Idiots to be death peddlers. All right? Why don't you go buy yourself?
I don't know that that's a particular term they want us to say, but I get
that's actually you're incorrect, actually.
Death peddlers. That is
yeah,
great.
Their email to us states we are death peddlers now. Congratulations to your death peddlers. So,
that is glorious.
So for me, the big deal here is not just that we got a sponsor. That's a huge thing. We're at
Absolutely.
the genesis of our podcast. So we are appreciative for anybody that will give us support. But beyond that, I'm excited because I sent Big Man I texted him on his cellular phone a year and a half ago when I saw the advertisement for this and then went to the grocery store and bought them because I love the branding of them.
Look, I agree with you. The fact that they came out and said, and that's what they're all about. Read anything about Liquid Death, not only liquiddeath.com, but any of the articles that have been written about the company. That's what it's about. Marketing, branding, right? And doing it to the extreme.
And so because we are a business and marketplace news podcast, the fact that we got a company that is so forward-thinking in marketing is brilliant. All of that is done being said, we have to jump into these stories.
Absolutely. So what do we got?
Are you ready, big man?
I am ready.
Jeff Brazos has left the building.
Yeah. Okay. So when this first dropped this week, at first I thought, no way. I mean, he's a young guy, right? Young for, obviously for what he's done, right? That kind of stuff. Sure. I thought, no way, Jeff Bezos stepping. The guy's way too narcissistic to step down from his company.
Well, true story. I had my older sister visiting me in Austin once, and we were driving around because my other older sister, like her flight was landed an hour and a half, and I lived so far up in North Austin, there's no point to go back to my house. and we were going downtown, and we go to Brazos Street, and I was like, yeah, the Brazos River. It's named after Jeff Brazos. My oldest sister was a lovely lady. She's no longer with us. But she was the most gullible. If I told her anything, she's like, "Oh, that has to be true," because I told it to her, even though she knows I historically make everything up. Like,
you know,
oh,
it's
that's
Jeff.
really neat.
It's Jeff Bezos, not.
I know
Brazos.
it's Jeff Bezos. That's the joke. So
I
Jeff
just wanted to
Bezos-
confirm.
Yeah, no, like, listen, this is the most ambitious crossover in human history. Jeff Bezos, Lex Luthor, is now going to go to war with the literal human being Iron Man, Elon Musk, racing to see who can get to space first.
Right, Blue Orbit,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that the name of it? Blue Orbit or
Blue Origin.
Blue
Yeah.
Blue
He
Origin.
also owns the Washington Post. So, like, here's the thing, though. Jeff Brazos is leaving.
Okay, that all by itself, the Washington Post, we could do a whole thing on the fact that one of the richest people in the world, and I say one of because him and Elon Musk go back and forth depending on
They're
what
always
stocks
constantly
doing
battling.
whatever, right?
I
But
think he got.
but the
here's
fact
what I
that
think
he
happened.
owns the Washington Post is a little frightening. Like, a little bit.
No.
Don't you think? Like, come on.
My faith in those institutions is so far ameliorated. There's no point. They're all fake.
Well, but that's because that's your faith in those
Yeah.
kind of institutions. We're
No,
talking
my lack
about
of- my lack
normal
therein, yeah.
people
Okay.
and their faith. Okay, but
So,
go ahead.
anyways, I think what happened is over 2020, Mr. Brazos and Mr. Musk continually battled for top number one. And he's like, I can't sit here and think about how to deliver 5XL boxer briefs to Danny somewhere north of Dallas in 2 days. I can't sit here and think about this. I got to focus on beating Elon Musk, the literal Iron Man, at his own game. So we have this battle, this epic battle of multi-billionaires, Marvel versus DC, fighting it out.
Okay, which
See
one's
who's gonna be
DC?
the top.
Which
Huh?
one's DC? Which one's DC?
Lex
Which one's
Luthor.
darker? Okay,
Lex
so
Luthor.
look, here's the deal. I
Musk.
don't know that anything changes. Honestly, I think like a lot of articles that were written this week believe that a lot of things happen in 2020, right, with Amazon and different things. There's a lot of different lawsuits and trouble been stirring and blah blah blah, and Jeff Bezos may not want to deal with any of that, and the easy way to do that is to step back from being the face of the company, still continue to control everything, still make all the decisions, just do it, and then you lead up your old buddy that's been with you for 20 something years,
Yeah.
Andy Jassy, and say, hey, you go sit before Congress, you go do all these things, I'm going to sit over here and keep being Jeff Bezos, and yeah, I'm going to say that I'm going to deal with Blue Origin, I'm going to deal with my Earth Foundation, and I'm going to deal with, whatever these other pet projects are, but he's
Right.
going to continue to be him and do what he's been doing, and just let this other guy go, and guess what? He's being well compensated for it.
Of course.
Okay, this
No,
Andy
I
Jassy
mean-
guy is being well compensated.
No, so I think what's interesting though is, there is so much dialogue in the mainstream press about Jeff Brazos that it makes sense that, who cares? And you are correct. Like, the reality is, he's already stepped back from day-to-day operations. Like,
Right.
he has been over the last year slowly pulling back, and I think what he is starting to realize is the same thing that Bill Gates realized, was like, hey, I've taken this Microsoft thing, I've taken this Amazon thing as far as it can go.
Mm-hmm.
Time for someone else who's going to move fast and break things to get in there. And I think pick the guy who took AWS from infancy to ubiquity. It
Well,
is-
to the most profitable portion of their business, $45 million last year. Billion. Sorry,
Yeah.
$45 billion last year.
server space is the new frontier, my friend. I always said, like, when I start developing more and more wealth, I'm not. Who cares about buying an apartment building? Get me a server farm.
Absolutely. The real estate's worth more, right, per square foot
Yeah.
in a server farm. Look, and going back a little bit, do you think it pisses Jeff Bezos off at all that the reason he's not by far the richest and he has to even compete with Elon Musk is his divorce that cost him 25% of his company? You get that, right? Like,
Yeah, and-
he has to compete directly with Elon Musk, but only because he lost 25% of his company due to divorce.
let me tell you some men out there. This is why you get a prenup.
I'm just saying, you add 25% to his
Yeah, and this guy
$188 billion
is
wealth, he's not even competing with Elon Musk.
yeah, and the thing with the calculation of his wealth is so much of it is calculated. None of this is liquid investment, right?
Right,
He
right, right.
owns Blue Origin, he owns Amazon, Washington Post, and the reality is most people don't comprehend what that means or how that happens. People's belief is, well, if there's wealth, that means it's liquid cash. Like I remember there was a sitting congresswoman
Yeah.
who, when a particular president's taxes came out, said this person doesn't even make $1 billion a year. They
Hmm.
claim to be a billionaire. This is a lie. And at that juncture, I realized. So what you're telling me is, you got elected to office and you don't know how net worth is calculated.
Well, of course
That's
they do.
highly concerning. Very.
And look, I grabbed a couple of, obviously this was trending on Twitter and a couple of other places this week because it's a huge announcement. So I grabbed some of these things, and what Danny is talking about, this is one of those particulars. So at Alvin Tedjo, however you would say that, right? There you go. Jeff Bezos could spend $8,000 a minute, $500,000 an hour, $80 million a week, $4 billion a year until he was 100 years old, and he'd still have over $5 billion left over without any interest of being accrued.
Right. And the reality is, Alvin does not understand. Well, the only way Mr. Brazos gets access to that level of capital if he starts offloading his positions in various companies.
Right.
And when the primary or a majority or a major shareholder starts offloading their position in anything, the entire market lights itself on fire because it goes, what's happening? If the guy who's because the person who has the biggest investment, even if it's not capital, it's sweat equity. Jeff Brazos has the top position for sweat equity in Amazon. He is the reason why Amazon is Amazon, right?
Well, and the SEC requires him, as an owner, he has to disclose it to everybody when he sells anything.
Exactly.
Right? So he can't even offload without telling everybody that he's offloading, which is a huge thing that everybody uses to sell. If you tell me that the biggest owner is selling shares, it's a big red flag for investors out there.
So, and that's my, and this is being slightly political, but that's my problem with these people who say this kind of stuff. Like they're what they're saying is entirely impractical. Okay.
Absolutely, I agree with you
because his wealth is, in reality, is people who don't understand economics, don't understand the market, and don't understand the stock market, and like I said, people who don't understand what net worth is, and they cannot distinguish and discern between wages, earnings, worth, wealth, value. All of these are different calculations. And listen, if you're just a normal person living your life, you don't have to think about these things. If you're going to make a statement and show everyone your baboon bottom, you should know that what you're saying is idiotic and stupid. So to Mr. Tejado,
okay, well,
I will
you
say what I say to
idiotic
everyone
and
else.
stupid. I'm saying that it's an opportunity for them to learn the things that they don't know about money and wealth and that thing.
Exactly.
You need more education because there's a difference.
And I'm the kind of person who goes, I don't care if you learn, you're a moron. So I'm the opposite of helping people learn because I'm always calling people stupid. But for some reason, if someone called me stupid, that would force me to want to know more about a subject, and that's how it's worked for me.
So we're going at it from the two different ways of parenting. Yep. You being, if I call you stupid, it motivates you to learn, where I'm more of I boost you up to learn. Is that what it is? That's okay. All right, I got
bleeding
it.
hard.
So, well,
we're going to hug you until you get it right. That's, yep. And the snowflake approach.
I grabbed a couple of these other tweets because I wanted to get Danny's impression
throw them
on
up.
them.
Just let's do it.
So we got here breaking news from Seth K here. Breaking news from Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to step down in order to pursue his lifelong goal of becoming Lex Luthor.
Congratulations.
Is it just the bald thing? Is you think that's why they're making that? Is it the bald thing?
In the last, I think it was Batman v Superman, Lex Luthor was played by the same guy who plays Shoot, I can't forget his name.
Oh, I always forget his name. I don't think he did a great job in that. You're talking
He
about
played
Justice
Mark
League?
Wahlberg also.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
Mark Wahlberg,
yeah.
Mark Zuckerstadt.
This was a great one. Douglas Bonethart. I'm shocked Jeff Bezos wouldn't walk away from Amazon in his prime.
Such a boomer joke. You would think that's funny.
I'm sorry, that is great, and I'm glad somebody thought of it. Jeff Bezos to become the first Amazon worker to get a break.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Okay,
That one's
that one's on point, right? Like that one is great. This one I appreciate. Jeff Bezos is stepping down as CEO so he can focus on his plot to steal the moon. Do you even get this one? Did you see this movie? Did you?
What movie?
Despicable Me.
No.
I'm going
Never
to
seen
steal
it.
the moon. It's a kids movie. It's great.
I've never seen this.
It's
My
Gru.
sister was in Canada. Saw an ad for Despicable Me, and in her head it registered as Despicable Me. And I can never talk about Despicable Me.
I just like to irritate with Star Trek things. So, of course, it says Star Trek actor Jeff Bezos is stepping away from his side hustle to do some online company, right? So, again, just implying that he's an alien, which is, of course. Look, and this one is just because we were talking about way people think about money and stuff like that.
So the actor we're thinking of is Jesse Eisenberg's.
Yes, Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg's was in Social Network, and Jesse Eisenberg's played Lex Luthor, and he had long hair. He did a very poor job as playing. Not a convincing.
Very jittery, I don't know. But this one, again, this kind of goes to, like, these things we tell people about creating wealth that are lies. It says he achieved it by making his own coffee at home and avoid $37 billion lattes at Starbucks, right? So, like, because we tell people, okay, stop drinking at Starbucks, you'll get wealthy.
Okay.
Eat at home, you'll get wealthy, blah, blah, blah.
So there's two approaches to getting wealthy, and this is something I used to say, and it made a lot more sense back in the day. But you walked into Borders or Barnes and Noble, neither of which, whatever.
Yeah.
And you walk into the section about business or entrepreneurship. There's 1,000 books telling you to do things 1,000 ways. There is a point to, hey, you're on the fringes of teetering on. Like being paycheck to paycheck,
right?
Yeah, it's probably smart to cut those things out. But on another level is you're actually trying to build wealth. You have to understand what builds wealth, and there is what I call the Dave Ramsey approach to build. And now we're off on a tangent, but
right.
There's the two different avenues, and I call them the two diverging methods. And there's the Dave Ramsey and then the Robert Kiyosaki. Neither of them is necessarily entirely correct because every human being is different. There are plenty of people who are getting out of debt and building wealth because of Dave Ramsey.
Right.
So there's
budgeting.
Nothing wrong with
it. All falls under budgeting. That Dave Ramsey thing is all budgeting.
Yes, and so what it comes down to is I say there are people who are always just their interest in life is I just working to live, not living to work. That's
sure.
And for those people, yes, cutting out Starbucks and McDonald's is their budget. For other people whose goal is to build massive volumes of wealth so they can own the moon, probably not the most successful strategy.
Yeah.
But I get where all these people are coming from because they're just like, we have to change the system, man. We can't just avoid drinking Starbucks and get wealthy. And that's not what that advice is, but it's still funny. I get the joke. I get that it's a joke, and I get the joke, but I'm just saying to the people who don't get the joke, and they're like, yeah, see, you can't just avoid Starbucks and get $1 billion. No, you actually have to produce something,
I think this every time somebody says, well, the system is rigged. Well, okay, there's a certain truth to that, but there's not. You can still look again, and I know we got off on a tangent here, but I grew up dirt poor, had dirt poor parents. Okay, I also got out of it, and I got to the other end of it. I didn't have rich parents to give me any leg up. They didn't have any money when they died to give me. I didn't get any influx of cash or whatever. I am living proof that the American dream is still alive there today. You can go from being dirt poor to being right? Wealthy.
Right.
So you can do it, and there's nothing wrong with it. Anyway, we got off on a tangent. We're done with that tangent.
Are we?
Again, going back to the story, I don't think anything effectively changes. It's just a
No.
big story, but everything continues to go
Huge
on.
deal.
You'll
It's
still
a
get
huge
your
deal.
packages in 2 days.
One day. I'm getting stuff in one day.
I'm sorry.
that-
You'll get yours in 1 day. The
That's
rest
correct.
of us
The
will get
rest
it in
of you
2.
do.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But you know, the lagging and long-term effects, events of 2020, they continue to bite us in the bum.
Imagine that.
So James Bond, the new James Bond film, which I thought Daniel Craig was not going to be James Bond anymore. Apparently, keep shoveling money at him, he'll do it.
You keep shoveling money at most people, they'll keep doing it.
And what's interesting is most of our new viewers and listeners will not know that we started out as a movie review channel, which was
We did.
epic failure, pivoted. But what's interesting is this movie has been delayed several times now, like 3 times.
Originally slated for April of 2020.
No, I thought it was October of 2019, and it got pushed back from production delays.
And it may be all the way
Yeah.
back to 2019. But look, it's not the only movie in that category either, right? And what we're about to discuss is actually, when you sent me this story, I thought, okay, it can't be. It's not something that I had thought of, but it is something that then turn around and you Google it and you go, how many movies are going to have this exact same problem, right?
Right.
And what's the exact story, Danny? Tell me what the story is. What's
So
the
here's
actual
the story. There's handfuls of product placement every movie, and if you're
Every movie.
and if you're remotely, if you have any sort of awareness, which I do because I'm a brand marketing guy, I live and breathe it as a passion.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice them. You'll all notice how on drives an Aston Martin.
Right.
So Aston Martin will time it's the release of its newer coupe. EB11 was initially supposed to come out when the movie came out. It didn't. It came out before the movie ended up coming out because the movie hasn't come out yet. They already started making it. Wow.
Right.
So what there's so much product placement, and one of them was Nokia. Nokia was based in this film, and Nokia's going, we come out with a phone every year. Gave you guys,
Right.
I think they gave them a pre-production device, so they're like, okay, this will be out.
Nokia
by the time.
8.3 with 5G was the one
Correct.
that they gave them for a couple of scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's not just, and again, look, we're talking about phones in this case because that happens to be what changes a lot very quickly right now. But obviously, product placement is everything from the clothes that they wear, the styles that they wear them in, shoes, cars, right? Everything
Bond-
that you can think of.
James Bond infamously wears an Omega watch, a Rolex
Absolutely.
and Omega. And Big Man is not a watch collector. I am. Omega had a huge announcement. They came out with a new piece this year.
Okay.
And they discontinued their moon watch and came out with a new version of the moon watch. Big deal, huge deal, massive deal, right? One tends to think, hey, maybe this was supposed to be featured in this film, and now they don't. What can they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Happening in a lot of these movies. Now they're going back and they're editing in, they're cutting in
Right.
the new device. Which, hey, listen, movie fans, you remember the hate crime that was the Justice League, because freaking Superman had to superimpose his face onto his own face. He grew out a beard for a role that he was in the Mission Impossible movie with a beard. So again, I'm offended that a Brit is playing Superman. Superman's American. He's from Kansas. There's no reason a British person should be playing Superman.
Hey, he did a really good job. Okay, I like him better in the what's the Netflix series? He's The Witcher. But anyway, the point. I get your point. Look, and isn't Snyder coming out with the director's cut of that's supposed to be like
it's coming
5
out in
hours
March.
long or something crap like
and
that?
it's coming out in 4 different parts, and I can't wait. I'm literally.
And I will watch it all.
Yeah.
So we're still obviously big movie fans. But look, I thought interesting in this because it affects. Look, there's a lot of money and time that goes into making movies, obviously.
Huge.
And one of the ways they recoup that, especially during filming, is these product placements, right? They
Right.
get money directly from these advertisers up front
Adidas-
to put their
Adidas
products.
was a huge sponsor.
Absolutely.
I'm a
So
huge
when you
Adidas
talk
guy. I wear a
about
lot of
having
Adidas.
to redo the movie, reshoot certain scenes, any, as you say, cut and edit and digitize these things, how does all that work out? Does Nokia want some of its money back? Do they just have to pay out of pocket? Production costs have to pay out of
I
pocket for this?
yeah, I don't know. I
Actors to come
assume
in? Henry Cavill, which plays Superman, obviously, is the actor that plays
Henry
Superman.
Cavill.
He's not coming in and reshooting this stuff for free. I'm
No,
certain.
of
He's
course
not going
not.
to come back, play Superman. Well, we're talking about the James Bond movies, but actors aren't just going to come in a year and a half later,
Well, that's
looking
not
like they
entirely
look for the
true.
same part.
There was a movie where there was main character star leading role um got canceled and they replaced him, and Mark Wahlberg was like, "Yeah, I'm not coming back for free." But an actress in the film, I think it was Renee Zellweger, like, "Yeah, I'll do it for free," just because she wanted the canceled actor to not be in the movie. She didn't care. Um, but I'm just saying, like, that
Well, I'm sure
was
it does happen, but I'm sure it's not standard, especially for big
no,
time movie
I
stars.
I
They
don't
go
think
from
so.
one movie to the next movie. Like
Yeah,
they could be in a completely different country, completely different set, completely
that
different
yeah,
look, right? As far as size and shape, and some of these actors
dude.
go back and forth.
Emily Blunt was supposed to play Black Widow. She actually won the part, and they actually were moving. And I I forget the gal's name off the top of my head. That is Black Widow now. She didn't win. She was number two. They didn't even want her. But Emily Blunt was doing Gulliver's Travels with the
Hmm.
Jack Black,
Love Jack
and
Black.
okay,
Love Jack Black.
of course you would. So she had to, and I think it was $100,000 difference in salary. So Emily Blunt went and did Black's Travels. None of us watched. No one cares about, and instead, yeah, I know, you lost out on a bajillion dollars because the character ended up having this long story arc and now a
Now our own movie and
streaming
everything
service.
else, which has
So
also been, pushed back and pushed
delayed, of
back and
course.
pushed back and pushed back. That's
But I
actually
just
one of
thought,
the big things about the entire thing. I don't know how the movie industry, how long it takes to swing back to, because I mean already we're talking about HBO Max, right? All of certain, I forget which studio it is, but every movie they have coming out in 2020, they're releasing on HBO Max the same day.
Warner,
You know what I'm saying? So that's one studio that
yeah,
already is going, hey, we've basically given up on movie theaters. But you've got all these movies like James Bond, Marvel movies, all these
right,
movies that are supposed to come out the last 18 months that have just been continued to be pushed back and pushed back and pushed back.
yeah, and I think what Warner's strategy is perfectly good here because what this shows the marketplace that is uneducated or unaware that these movies tend to have a shelf life, right?
Absolutely.
So they need to come out when they're supposed to come out. And the problem I think that the studios are having, which is an entirely reasonable one, is how do you roll out to theaters? This is not their fault. How do you roll out to theaters when half the country is open or not open, or
Well,
even
and
if
the other half that's open aren't going to the movies.
because they're afraid to sit in a room with a bunch of people? What about the movie theater? The town I grew up in went out of business. New company came in 2019, purchased it, refurbished the whole thing. I actually tried to get um, an Austin-based theater company to buy that theater. The deal didn't work out, but it would have been a lot of ching in my pocket. But the deal didn't uh, come to anything. But the crazy part is, this new company spent, I don't know, probably $10-15 million upgrading everything,
Absolutely.
theater seating, all this other stuff. They're closed,
Right.
and now
My,
their parking lot is used as a Dos Equis testing site. And that's the most action they're going to get because it looks like they're going to go out of business again. There's theaters dropping. And so you have this vicious circle
right.
where if people even want to go to the theater, there's nothing playing because because
Mm-hmm.
because they're delaying the release of big films. because nobody's going to the theater. So
and now you have ad revenue, product placement revenue that's going to drop off of a cliff. If you spent, let's say your average Nokia, for example, right? They probably have an average. They know on any given year, this is how much money they pay into be in films, right? This is how much money. This is how many different phones. And there's a budget for that. Has that budget just said? That budget say zero today? Because of the way the last 18 months have gone with Dos Equis and everything else? Have they stopped giving that money to I don't know who that check goes to, right? Does it go to the production company or the owners?
Yeah, so if I'm them, right, I go, and listen, this is again another tangent. There is a global microchip shortage.
Absolutely.
Because the country that produces the majority of the world's microchips had a oopsie doopsie for the better part of a year that slowed down production. So the entire marketplace going to see setbacks. And I don't think we're going to be caught up until like 2024, right? Because I think
I agree. I don't know if
one
ever.
setback on top of another. It's going to take time for there to be an equilibrium, so there's enough chips. We have to distribute them. The car people need the chips, and the phone people need the chips. And so if I'm a manufacturer of any product or good that is affected by these shortages, I'm starting to look at my bottom line, and I'm starting to look at my business and going, hey, well, why don't I just go direct to consumer on the internet, where I have a little more control over my supply chain so that I can not launch goods based on what I can actually sell people.
Well, then that turns around and affects the movie industry, because if the movies use certain money from, again, like this story Nokia, to get movies to be made, and they no longer have access to that money, and that means that a movie doesn't get the funding that it needs to get made, or, they have to go somewhere else and find it, does that then certain movies don't get made, or certain studios don't have funding that they were counting on? Because, I mean, they project these things out years and years and years in advance. Studios don't just pop up tomorrow and go, hey, we're making a movie 60 days from now, and ask for funding. And, that's not the way it works, right? Totally, so they project years and years out, because that's when movie stars, they know what movies they're making next year and the year after that. And that. So this has disrupted all of that. I do want to, however, speaking of this movie and Nokia, not only was Nokia, the new Nokia 8.3 5G was going to be in that movie, but also it's good old, we love to call it back in the day, the brick. It also, Nokia 3310. The old-fashioned Nokia 10 is in the movie, and if you're going to put product placement in there, why don't you hold up that phone, and I'm pretty sure I've got one in this house somewhere, because I have every cell phone I've ever had.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure I have. You hold that up, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Right. It is, by the way, for your information, not the original brick.
It's not the original brick, but those were indestructible. The Nokia 3310s were indestructible. Now, most people say brick. You're talking about the 1980s, right? The big phone. But the Nokia I'm talking about, everybody knows what it looks like. You could throw those out of a building,
I know,
and they would be fine.
Yes, I know. Everyone agrees with you, but I'm saying it wasn't. Listen, the majority.
You have to point out the strange people. These are why, Danny, I love and hate and want to choke them sometimes, because as the audience, what I was talking about.
Yes,
Danny knows what I was talking about. Right. Yet he feels the need to point out that I wasn't technically correct about something that no one cares about.
And the entire purpose, by the way, of this podcast, to close out the story, is that it's me besting you perpetually.
Oh, is that what it is? I don't know that that's besting. I think it's just irritating. But besting,
I gotcha. Okay. Hey, big man, I have a question for you, because you're old.
Yes, sir. I am.
Did you know that Google was in the gaming business?
Kind of, but.
Okay.
Did I have to do research on this story to figure out what exactly you were talking about? Yes, sir, I did. And you're talking about a gamer. Like, I enjoy World of Warcraft and all these old school games. I enjoy the new games. I enjoy sitting down playing Fortnite with the kids. You know what I mean? We win a lot of battles, man.
what can I say? You have the physique of a gamer, so I'm not surprised.
I do.
Yeah. So Google has a cloud gaming company called Stadia. And so what's happened recently is Google's company Stadia is no longer going to produce games for its own platform because they figured, hey, no one wants to make games for our own platform. Why would we?
Well, okay, here's my irritation. I remember when I went back and you sent me the story and I started going back through some stuff I'd read previously. I remember when Google first came out with this idea. And the idea, their unique idea, was we were going to build server-based, cloud-based games, and we were going to do it better than everybody else. We were going to spend the money on the infrastructure and the servers to deliver you the best product. And like we were talking about with cell phones last week, I was talking about cloud computing and that kind of stuff. That was their idea. We're going to take and create games that are so good and need so much space and power that you can't just put them on your newest Xbox. You can't put them on your newest PS5 because we're doing it server-based and cloud-based. We're just streaming it to you, right? And that was the original thought. This idea now 14 months later to give up on that makes Google Stadia the same as Amazon just let up 3 months ago. Amazon, it's got some weird name like Linux or Linux or something like. It's basically this idea, right? But being
Ouya?
that
Is it Amazon Ouya?
something like that. But anyway, the point is you get access to a bunch of games for a monthly fee, right? And that kind of stuff. And the point though is Google now becomes just like every other one of these platforms that's trying to get you to pay a monthly. Guess what? PlayStation has this. It's called PlayStation Now, right? Xbox has Xbox Game Pass,
And
right?
listen,
They're
I'm
just
not-
bundling, right? Library format. They're bundling games that they're paying licensing for, right? They're white labeling them. And then you get to play them as much as you want for free. Well, not for free, for your monthly fee.
Well, I'm saying I'm not a gamer, right? So my uncle Thomas is actually CEO of Google Cloud, Thomas Curry, and making that up. Probably is my fifth or sixth cousin. Probably true.
I'm not going to make any kind of joke here I really want to make because we're being recorded.
Nonetheless, what I'm saying is what I think is interesting, or what's interesting to discuss, that Google has had this history of an idea isn't panning out, just and I think more companies, not even companies, but that's something we talk about on this podcast a lot, is when you're a startup and Google continues to treat itself, despite its global dominance, despite its billions and billions and billions of dollars in revenue, continues to treat itself like a startup. They try something, it doesn't work, they just quit. This is something I've had to learn, which is if I try something and I don't figure, if I can't get it, I don't like it, but I have a gut feeling, I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. Just don't do it. Like for me, that was university. That was going to college.
Right.
I could have told you the second semester I was there, the waste of time and money. But I kept going because I'm like, well, this is just what everybody does. So like, I think there is this weird fine line between sticking it out, grinding it out, being committed, doing what it takes, and going, screw this, but I have I have different interpretation. I have a pivot. And this podcast exists because we go, doing these movies, views is stupid. Half of these videos are getting claimed, can't monetize anything. I don't care that. Like, the problem I think we had was, I liked all the movies. I had nothing unique
you and
or
I still
interesting.
like movies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, but it's just like I had nothing unique or interesting to say.
Right.
So what I think is fascinating is that Google, after being Google is huge. It's everywhere. The concept that it tried to get into a business and it couldn't. And it just went,
Well, so I agree with you from the pivot, and you should listen to your audience and pivot, and I do respect that. I disagree from a standpoint of you are Google. You have junk tons of things out there that are making money. You can afford to spend some money, take a loss, and figure something out. What essentially this is them not only I don't know that it's as much of a pivot for them because they are a Google company and they have junk tons of money. If a startup does this, I respect it, right? You got to do what you got to do. You're listening to your audience or whatever. But when a company like Google does this, it almost feels like they're giving up, not pivoting, right? Because what they're going to continue. The Stadia is not dead. What they're doing is pivoting the business model to one that makes more money. So instead of doing something that's going to be expensive to figure out, that's unique, that would provide a better product to people that are paying us, which here's the idea. The idea is you paying for Stadia Pro or paying to play these games, you were the customer because they were building something unique for you. They were going to build something only you can access if you pay them to access it. Now, you are no longer the customer. The people that they now partner with that already make these games and own these games that want to then in turn get you to play more of them and that kind of stuff, they become the customer. So what they're pivoting from is from people that I couldn't get to pay me money for because I was developing product, I didn't already have the product ready for you, to people that have money, meaning the gaming companies that are making these games and stuff like that. So they're pivoting who their customer is and they're going money. So it's not a pivot, it's more of a give up to me. Google could have done something really, really cool, and they gave up on it 14 months down the road.
So you're right, but I think something you said in there, and that's the important bit here, they were a startup. And I think what the reality is when you're an incumbent player in any industry, hard for innovate because you have to work to maintain your business.
Right.
The thing about Google is they don't care. They got limitless cloud infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
They got limitless money. But ultimately, if they do something and the event horizon for capital development, 18 months, and they hit their 18 months and there's not doing what they want, that is something I appreciate about them as a big corporation, because a lot of companies will go down a path, they'll throw billions of dollars at something, and then only to go close up shop because it didn't work out, you know?
Well, but again, that's the difference between a startup and a company. I mean, look again, Tesla. Look at Tesla. How many times did they take $100 from people only to turn around and have to give it back because their cars weren't ready or they weren't making enough cars or whatever? So Stadia was in that same vein. Hey, we want to let people sign up for a service that they know isn't quite ready yet, but we're going to work on it. This is what we're promising. And now you're 14 months down the road and you figured out there just wasn't enough people that were willing to give you enough money to fund what you were wanting to fund and do what you were wanting to do. And again, I think it all comes down to money. The fact of creating this new product, especially a cloud-based product, a server-based product, is extremely expensive. Right? Running these things and stuff. And then not only it requires you using a network that's not your own, right? Using a cable network. How fast are people's speeds downloading and uploading? And so the viability of your product is completely dependent on a system that you have no control over, whether somebody's trying to play your games out in the BFE or they're trying to play them in downtown Austin, right? And that Google is their that's their user experience, right? So I get it. But again, it feels like a give up to me. It feels like something Google could have pushed through, right? They could have pushed through and said, "Hey, we're going to deliver something really cool." And honestly, that's what I expect from Google. I really do. That's my expectation has always been from Google, because that's what they are. They're kind of a Tesla kind of company. Let's throw some money at it and see if we can figure it out, because it will better something. It will better a product. It'll better the way we do something. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm of the mindset that it's going to take a newer, smaller company to try and execute what they did to actually nail it, right? And it might take a video game company to be the one that goes, hey, we're going to come out with our own service where you play on the cloud or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. I'm so excited for our next story. You know why?
We're moving on to our next story now? All right.
I don't know. Do you have anything more to say?
Well, you mentioned something there that another company, now this isn't a startup, but there is a company out there, been around for a long time. They created World of Warcraft, which is where they got their money, right? Activision Blizzard, which is trying to do exactly that. Activision Blizzard years ago figured out that companies out there that own these kind of platforms to access their members, like Steam and stuff like that, wanted to charge them crazy amounts of money to be on their programs. There was a while there that Steam was really the only, you know what I mean, one out there to get access to this game. And Blizzard, now Activision Blizzard, and I've got a buddy of mine that has worked for them for several years now, and worked his way up through the ranks. They got tired of just getting chunks of their money taken away by these types of places, so they not only developed their own, right, Steam system, now they're licensing other games, much like, right, Google did here and Amazon did or whatever, but they're using that to then further that kind of technology. That's where they think this stuff goes, is taking these bigger games, World of Warcraft and Fortnite and these kind of things, and taking them to that level. And once they've got the infrastructure built out, they can license it to any big game.
Yeah.
Any big game.
I didn't know that existed. Again, I'm not a nerd. So.
I am. But I wanted to bring it up because you said it there at the end. There are companies out there that are looking at this, and it may not be a startup. Maybe it's one of these existing that are trying to pivot their business.
Listen, it could be an incumbent game maker. Because, again, I think the issue that was here was they're not getting rid of Stadia. They're getting rid of Google's internal division that was games.
Right.
But that has the effect of, hey, like, you know, if they're not good at making games, they're not a games company. They don't make games. They don't understand, maybe they don't understand what it takes. Kind of architecture that makes a game playable, interesting to people, that sort of thing. Maybe they don't get that. It's fine. Maybe.
And you're right. Maybe they turn around and sell those. Maybe those developers turn around, and this happens, especially in the technology world. Maybe the 10 guys that worked in that department, whoever it was, turn around and end up at a Blizzard or end up at an EA, right? Or whatever. They end up at one of these other companies that goes, hey, y'all, because here's what those people have in their heads is 14 months worth of knowledge. Right. 14 months of working on it, right? I guarantee you at least one of those eggheads will end up at another company that wants to do exactly this, right?
Yes.
Wants to pick up the torch and goes, hey, let me give you another 6 months of thought, right?
Yeah.
And working toward it and see if something pops.
And you never know. Like, Google rarely does this, but they may just sell this division to one of those people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, and I'm sure if they think they could make a certain money, because they're going to turn around and charge them for the servers and charge them for the like you said, the soft cost of these things, right? The bandwidth.
Yeah, exactly. And what they will have that starting a platform from scratch doesn't have, users.
Right. Well, somebody like Blizzard, right, owner of World of Warcraft, millions and millions and millions of users already, right? I mean, it would be easy for them to turn around and push any product down that, you know what I mean, down that line, right? Epix uses the same thing, the owner of Fortnite, right? That kind of stuff. Like, they use their Fortnite base. Again, we talk about it all the time on this show, right? Audience. Right? Use their audience, right? So anyway, I just wanted to kind of throw that in there at the end because I thought it was interesting that I would like to see one of these existing players, you know, pick up that banner and really take it home. I think it's possible, and I think it'd work out great for them.
I'm really glad you liked the story about gaming.
Hey, shut it.
Now, can we talk about more serious business?
Yes.
Can we talk about Hindenburg coming for Chamath Palihapitiya?
Something that Danny finds very interesting. Yes. Let's move on from a story that I find very interesting.
That's correct.
To a story that you find interesting. I swear to God, folks, it's like being married to a, you know.
Please stop referring to us that way. That is the weirdest thing you could possibly say. So, Chamath Palihapitiya formed an S-PAC.
Okay, folks, before he gets into this stupid show, he says that stop saying that we're married or whatever. But before we started recording today, he made fun of me because I didn't notice and compliment his hair from last thing. That I didn't compliment him on the fact that he got a haircut for our last episode. So you know what, Danny? I'm just presenting the evidence to the folks out there that are watching.
Can I just say something?
Go ahead.
From drastically longer hair.
There's no defense for you getting on to me for not noticing your haircut and complimenting it. No defense. No defense.
Yeah.
So go on to your Hindenburg.
Okay. So this company, we have reported on Hindenburg Research's business before.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Nikola. They
Yep.
they had a huge short position in Nikola. Right now, they don't hold a short Clover. But what's interesting is Chamath Palihapitiya, also
Which
my
I'm
third
not
cousin.
going to attempt to say in any way, fashion, or form.
Well, he's Sri Lankan, so he's Canadian Sri Lankan. So I don't really, you know, he's one of these people who I like, but I also disagree with. Says a lot of important and interesting things. CEO of Social Capital. He was at Facebook for a while. He's a venture capitalist guy. Interesting, again, Canadian. So SPAC, big man, you know Wall Street. Tell everyone what an SPAC is.
Well, look, there, and I'm going to shorten this and try to make it not too long. There are two ways to become a publicly traded company, right? On the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, whatever, right? One of them is to create and go through the long, lengthy process of getting approved by one of those, like NASDAQ, right, or whatever, which can take years and years and years. The other way, which most people do,
called an IPO.
It's called an IPO, yes. But it takes years of basically the government being up in your books, hundreds and hundreds of hours of accounting and third-party software stuff. It's painstaking. Been down that process. One of the quicker ways that goes through it, been through it. One of the quicker ways is this process, which Chamath is apparently in the business of, which is acquiring what they call a shell company, basically a failed IPO, a company that doesn't exist anymore, their stock has very little value, and you just acquire, you literally purchase all of their shares, and in some cases, those investors, if you have bag holders that own that company, right, and then you turn around and just incorporate yours into it, and then all of a sudden, you have an IPO without going IPO, right? You
Very
are
smart.
on the NASDAQ, right? And you have
Brilliant.
your company obviously has value. It's a real company, that kind of. And there's people like Chamath that specialize in these kind of business moves, right? So it's how he took a company, in this case Clover Health, from a private company to a public company without an IPO.
Right. And Chamath Palihapitiya has been noteworthy the last couple of weeks, of course. And at some point in time, Big Man and I will spend a little more time talking about Wall Street billionaires and what I would call blue-collar just regular guy billionaires. Like Elon Musk and other people get the jokes and they're interesting. Chamath is one of these people. A company called Social Capital he's a populist of some sort, right? And he's trying to buy up and develop and expand companies that really affect the ordinary average person. And what's interesting is he took this company, Clover Health, again, public through SPAC process. Looks like, according to Hindenburg Research, that they have not informed everybody of the entire facts of everything that they're doing.
Okay,
Oopsie.
so Hindenburg Research Company, again,
Right.
why do
Again,
you and I know their name? Because they're the ones that released the
Nikola.
Nikola data, right? And said
But
Nikola's a
let me
fraud.
tell you something. Hindenburg Research does not have a short position at this point in time in Clover. Also, let me just throw this out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hindenburg Research, freaking amazing name.
Well, you're bringing companies down, so. But look, so here's all the information you and I are saying today are from this Hindenburg, right? Which
Yeah,
you'll
from
link
this
down below
Hindenburg,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. So based on this article, I have no insider knowledge that this is actually the case, but according to this article, Chamath.
Do we
Now,
ever
look,
have insider knowledge? This is idiots versus idiots.
It
We have-
probably not. I'm
Yeah, we
I'm
don't
saying
have any
now as a
insider knowledge
disclaimer,
ever.
we have no insider knowledge ever about
don't know
anything that we
anything.
say. We know nothing. It's why we
We
call
have
it idiots
we
versus
literally
idiots.
have a show. By the way, for the commenters who are going to catch me on the street, and they're going to find out how we do justice in Texas. Okay,
Get out of here.
Right.
The fact is we call the show idiots. If we ever get sued, I'm just going to show them our logo and be like, idiots versus idiots.
what do you want us?
No,
We literally have a show,
what
and
do
it's
you
called
want?
Idiots versus Idiots.
It's
We don't know anything.
We know nothing. Anyway, here's my issue. People in his industry that do these SPAC, things,
Right.
are typically looked on very slimily, right? Because they're the middleman. They're getting paid to link up investors, a company, and these shell companies that don't exist, right? So
Clover, by the way, was apparently has a bunch of supporters, or I don't know what, investors that are celebrities. There's a bunch of celebrity investors.
According to what I got out of the article, Chamath brought that on. He was the introducer between Clover Health, a company, and then your big time investors. In this case, some celebrity names that you would recognize.
I remember when I watched the Bloomberg the snippet of Chamath talking about taking this company public with an SPAC.
Right.
And I remember looking into Clover Health and going, "This is such an interesting company." Now Hindenburg Research is pointing out, oopsie daisy, it's an interesting company. Like there was another company that any business that is really trying to innovate in the healthcare space ends up getting this kind of exposure where people go, Zenefits was another one, right? Zenefits was a huge company out of Scottsdale that had not same thing, but I'm just saying, like it turns out some of their licensure that they were using.
Well, and this is where, okay, we live in a country that is buyer beware, right? That meaning you are in charge of your own money.
Caveat emptor.
Caveat, yes, right? You are in charge of your money. So in this case, disclosures didn't happen that Clover Health is being investigated by the Department of Justice and a couple of other of your alphabet, right?
The alphabet
places
boys
out there, right? The alphabet boys and stuff. So
oopsie daisy.
By not disclosing that, did Chamath, right, create a situation? Is he liable for the people the investors he introduced to Clover Health and vice versa? And this is why this is kind of a slimy industry, people that do this, is because there's not a whole lot of, there's all kinds of regulation when it comes to that stuff. But when things happened and when they didn't happen can get pretty gray. Does that make sense? And people get away with it a lot more than you think, because Chamath's going to come back and say, well, that was Clover Health's job to disclose that to you. Right. Or I did disclose that to you, but you don't know or remember, or you know what I mean, or whatever.
You don't understand what I was trying to tell you.
And then the other thing that comes up a lot in these cases, especially with high profile people, these celebrities and stuff like that, they're not the ones that are actually making that decision. It could be their money guy that's making that decision. It could be a middleman that's making that decision. And then they go, okay, wait a minute, now my name's associated with Clover Health. It's being, you know what I mean, by the Department of Department of Justice.
For all we know, he sent his accountants and attorneys down to Clover to do all of the diligence, and he just read a bunch of reports, and this whole thing slipped under the radar of one of his people that was going to do the diligence, and it's not entirely his fault. The reason I wanted to do this story, the reason it interests me is, for some reason, Chamath Palihapitiya is sticking my craw, and I kind of like to see it burning to the ground. Not him, but I'm just saying, like, everything he's about is kind of like, he's a try-hard. Let me put it that way. He feels
What's
to
a
me
try-hard?
Like he's just a guy who's trying to dang hard project this thing. I don't know, okay? Because it seems to me like Elon Musk, not a try-hard. Mark Cuban, not a try-hard. This guy might be a try-hard. Just saying. But, so, it's just because the story is also interesting because we'll talk about it in later stories coming up this month. But SPACs as a process exploded in 20.
And will continue to do. There are so many failed companies out there and there's a lot of benefits to doing it. It's much, like I said, a much quicker process and stuff like that. And I think you will see it a lot more going forward because it's a great way for companies to raise capital when they need it, right? By getting into these already publicly traded companies and then being able to have offerings at different times to raise capital. There's a company out there right now that is going through, and they just passed $7 million in sales. They want to add a bunch of products to their output and stuff like that. So they're already a profitable company, but just because you're a profitable company doesn't mean you have a ton of money to shove into new products, right? New areas and stuff like that. So they turn around and offer $100 million worth of, you know what I mean, stock for people to
Right.
buy. Here's brand new printed stock, right? We're gonna sell it until we hit that number of $100 million, and then now we've got $100 million to put into our product lines and stuff like that. So I think you're gonna see it a lot where traditionally publicly traded companies, real ones, right? We're not talking
Right.
about Wolf of Wall Street penny stocks here. We're talking about
Right.
actual companies that are trying to create a product or deliver a service, right? Whatever. I think you're going to see a lot smaller companies go this route so that they can raise capital in a
Right.
way that, guess what, benefits everybody, right?
Of course, yeah.
Venture capitalists, to me, I love venture capitalists and I love the way that it's set up, but angel investors and venture capitalists have had a niche market of really
Right.
big companies forever. And I would
Yeah.
love to see that broken up. By going this route, you're actually
that's-
offering the average person a way to get into startups.
Right, and that is what Chamath's is. I said he's kind of a populist and he's kind of an advocate of investor. And like I said, there's something about him that rubs me the wrong way. I still like listening to the guy. I listen to a lot of his.
I want to get
Interviews.
down and dirty on that. What's this try hard thing? Like I don't understand what you're. So I get what you're saying that Elon Musk, Bill Gates, right? These people
Not
aren't
Bill
try-
Gates.
like,
I never said Bill Gates. I said Mark Cuban.
I'm sorry, Mark
Mark,
Cuban.
I can't even say my thoughts about the other guy.
Yeah, well, okay. So what makes them not try hard guys and this a try? I don't get it.
There is just a feeling or a vibe of authenticity that I like Chamath, right?
So you're saying he's a slime ball. You're saying
No,
you don't
but-
you,
okay,
you don't
I'm not
feel
saying he's a slime
truthfulness
ball.
running off of him.
What's that?
You don't feel truthfulness running off of him. You don't.
There's something incongruent in my mind that his message of capital and we're going to better the blah, 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 yada, yada.
I'm that guy.
The average guy, the little guy, that whole, to me, seems like marrying that with big business. There is something about it that goes, and there's something less incongruent about a guy who's like, yeah, I'm doing this to make money.
Okay, so basically, you have a problem with anybody that doesn't think exactly like you. That's the gist of because
mean,
that's what you just said. That's what you
basically,
just
I mean,
said.
yes, of
like,
course.
You don't believe people if they don't literally say to your face they're out to get you. They're out to take
well,
from you. They're
okay,
out
listen.
to steal your money.
Let me
like
put you this
that's
way. I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, and you won't remember him because you're from Dallas. He's a furniture store out in Houston.
okay.
Save you money.
I remember the commercials back in the 80s, right?
Yes,
Come on
80s
down
and-
and,
yes.
that's car stereos, right? We had a car stereo
something
guy
like
in
that.
Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah, so that guy who sells furniture openly talks about how he's like, well, I'm part social worker, part entrepreneur. His furniture store in the back has a high school. It
Okay.
has a trade school. It has all this other stuff. When I hear that guy talk about, I'm trying to impact my community in Houston. We get people jobs in the furniture store, then we put them through school in our trade school in the back, or we get them to finish their GED. Any of the things I just said, for some reason it feels correct and it works.
Okay.
The guy's actually from Dallas. When Chamath says it, I go, you sound like you're trying to dang hard. Appealed to an emerging market of people who are interested in business and entrepreneurship. It still are kind of like these Bernie Sanders fans.
All
And
right,
they're like,
take it
yeah,
down a notch. Take it down a notch. All right,
No,
but yeah.
I'm not
All right,
going to take anything
So
down
it's
a
an
notch.
authenticity issue.
You don't tell me what to say or do.
Again, we're back to the I can't tell my apparently podcast wife to calm down. It's an authenticity problem is your problem. It's not a him trying to do good things. It's an authenticity problem.
And listen, I again need to repeat. Don't know the guy. Okay?
Right.
I can only talk about when I hear him talk on what I hear him say. He's on CNBC or he's getting interviewed by someone, right? And there's something about what he's saying that goes, I think you're saying what I think you want that you think people want to hear. You're not
Right.
saying what you think. You're saying what people want. And that to me is a person who we just got listen. And it turns out, yeah, Oopsie, oopsie. Got to mention a couple things.
So
No?
I this is a sad day for me because I feel like I agree with you a little bit. Like I agree with you. My mother used to say you can't bullshit a bullshitter,
That's
right?
right.
And
And
that one of the things that my wife loves about me is the fact that I see through a lot of that where she can't a lot of times.
yeah,
She's
no,
like, "Well,
and
why
it's
don't you think blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Let me break this down for you why I don't want to work with this individual." And then she's like, "Oh, that makes sense."
and let me compliment Big Man on his radar here. Bullcrap radar. I distinctly recall one time he just said something. He's like, "Come on, man! I know you got nothing to do today. You're just gonna go back to your apartment with your shades drawn and your computer on." I was like, "Holy crap! How did he know exactly?" Like, is that apartment for some reason I couldn't figure out how to like open the shades because and then I realized later.
Whatever excuses you got, go ahead.
But no, I realized it's like I was like, "Holy crap! He's entirely correct." And it was one time. Big Man is mostly incorrect, I think.
Sure,
But
yeah,
it
sure.
was one time where he was like, he got it totally correct. And he sometimes, not always, because, we've talked about other subjects, podcasts, which we now have to avoid. He goes on a diatribe about, you don't understand, and blah, blah, blah. And I say,
Yes.
you don't understand. The world is coming to an end, and I'm going to profit off.
Yeah, and that's
Nonetheless,
exactly where we need to stop this particular story. Don't forget, folks, that
we don't have
this
to stop anything. I'll do a fifth story if I want to. I'll do it without you. I had the passwords to our YouTube account.
I should have never shared those with you. Um, this episode, as Danny's enjoying right now, was brought to you by Liquid Death. Which, what's their tagline, Danny?
Murder your thirst.
Murder
Liquid
your
death,
thirst.
murder your thirst.
Please use Idiots10 for 10% off. Get it sent to you. Let us know when you tried it, what you think, that kind of stuff. I've got a couple of cases headed my way so that I can try it.
It's water. I mean,
Well,
good.
it's what they've got two
Good
apparently.
water.
They've got they got water and they got carbonated water. I guess
Sparkling water. Oh
sparkling
my
water.
gosh.
Whatever.
Are
I
you
don't care.
1,000 years old?
I don't care. I don't care. That's it. I'm done with you today. I've had
Great.
it. You
I
suck.
agree.
Okay,
Up
you're an
yours.
idiot. Okay.
You too.
What else? Do you need anything else from me
That's,
today?
I don't need anything from you ever.
He says that, but he'll call me later.
Okay. Well, people, this is Danny for Idiots versus Idiots, and I'm signing off reminding you, work at a bagel shop, not slice a bagel symmetrically. How do you sleep?
I'm so sorry, folks. He's an idiot. We'll see you next time.